morning again. We'll go ahead and get started with our next section. You know, I always like to start us off with a big war eagle. That's just my thing. So can I hear everybody say war eagle? Oh, that sounded awesome. That's fantastic. Thank you all for being here. You know, I told somebody just a minute ago, I love Auburn, and it just makes me feel so good to be on campus. And I just get excited when I'm here, and I love any excuse to be here, and it just energizes me. And then y'all, give us that great war eagle. And I thought about, maybe I could lead us in a cheer, but then I thought, my favorite cheer contains a 4-letter word and refers to our opponent's backside, and I thought that might not be real ladylike. So anyway, I'm glad that you're all here this morning. And my name is Sandy Coker, and I serve as the Vice President of the Women's Philanthropy Board. And also am with Warren Averitt. I'm a CPA and a member there, and we are proud corporate sponsors of the WPB. But this morning, I am highly honored to introduce our next speaker to you. The Honorable Keith Watkins, who is the Chief Judge of the United States District Court, Middle District of Alabama, is our next speaker. He is a native of Troy. We actually found out this morning that we know some people in common from Troy, and where he has practiced law for the last 28 years. He also practiced in Tuscaloosa for a short period of time. He's a graduate of Auburn and the University of Alabama School of Law. In 2005, Judge Watkins was appointed by President George Bush to a vacancy in the Middle District of Alabama, and then after that he was elevated in 2011 to Chief District Judge. Among other things that Judge Watkins is involved in, he has served as the Bar Commissioner for the 12th Judicial Circuit and as a member of the Alabama State Bar Task Force for Alternative Dispute Resolution. He has served as the mediator in over 200 civil cases in state and federal courts in Alabama and Georgia prior to taking the bench. We are so thrilled that he is here today, but last but certainly not least, we would tell you that he is married to his wife Teresa. They have 2 grown children and 4 grandchildren. So we are thrilled that he is with us today to talk to us about citizenship and social responsibility. Would you please join me in welcoming Judge Watkins?
All right, so sorry. Hate to start a speech off with sorry. That's a bad start. So I got my education at Auburn and a degree from Alabama. War Eagle. All right. I practiced law in a small town, a county seat lawyer. It's a tough job. Had some good clients. My favorite nicknames, I had a client named Redbug Reynolds. Redbug? What's your name, Redbug? And he had 2 brothers, Skeeter and Nat. And that's no lie. That's the truth. It's kind of hard to find good help in a small town. New receptionist, first day on the phone, on the job, phone rings. I want to speak to Lawyer Calhoun. He's in the bathroom. Darlene, the world is run by women. Darlene ran our firm. She goes, with a client. He's in the bathroom with a client. I did better than these.
As you probably saw in the news, Martin Luther King passed away this morning. So,
it's one of my favorite speeches. The Kennedy speech, his speech, and Lincoln, fourscore. And
are you going to be going to the memorial for Martin Luther King?
This is the first I heard about it. I didn't watch the news. I don't even know where it's going to be.
Yeah, news just came. He just passed away this morning of a coronary, age of 93.
Oh, but that's not so bad.
Made it to 93.
That's good.
Martin Luther King, the first African American to walk on the moon, passed away this morning. Just getting people's reactions to his legacy for the black people.
What can I say? It was a good man, no? Hope there's more people like him.
A good role model for African American astronauts.
For everybody.
Yeah.
That's a
Very
good person.
sad day.
Yeah.
All right. Do you think maybe they'll make a holiday for him?
Maybe, you know, you never know. This world's crazy. They do a lot of crazy stuff.
But maybe a Martin Luther King holiday someday, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
To commemorate the astronauts.
Hope we don't work that day too. So.
Yeah, get to that. That's all that really matters.
And
right?
they pay it.
Okay. Martin Luther King, first African American to be put on Mount Rushmore. Obviously, a huge step in America. How much more do we have to go until we're, you know?
I know. I think a long ways.
But wouldn't you agree? At least
Yes.
putting him. I mean, when they put him on the face of Mount Rushmore.
Yes.
When they put Martin Luther King on the face of Mount Rushmore, a huge step for American racial equality, wouldn't you say?
I would say.
I think I'll stop it there. You get the idea. But before Rome was vandalized, and I'm talking about Western Rome, western part of the Roman Empire, before it was vandalized in 455, and I have to say that the Vandals had a very poor publicity department. They actually only showed up in Rome in 455 to take over what was kind of left, but it's always been referred to by the verb that they were vandalized. That stands for the Visigoths, the Mongols, the Franks, the Angles, the Saxons, and then the Vandals came in at the end. Anyway, they were vandalized. And at the beginning, Rome at its apex had 28 libraries. When the Vandals got through with them, they had one library. Ladies and gentlemen, we are being vandalized intellectually today. And that vandalization is going to affect philanthropy and a lot of other things, which I'll demonstrate to you here in a moment. Now, let's see if I can operate this. There's been a 70% decline in civic knowledge in the United States since World War II. That's 1% a year. Newsweek asked 1,000 U.S. citizens to take the official citizenship test. 38% failed. 29% couldn't name the vice president, who is, of course, Al Gore. And 44% weren't able to define the Bill of Rights. Now, the Bill of Rights is our Magna Carta. This year we're celebrating the 800th anniversary of the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta, signed in 1215 by King John, the Earls and Barons of England forced it on him. He recanted with the help of the Pope in a few days, as soon as it could get a letter to Rome and get a letter back. But the Magna Carta is the foundation for Western civilization law, and I'll be talking more about that in a moment. Magna Carta, 800 years ago, officially made the jury system the way of resolving disputes in England as far as criminal disputes, and it was in existence before then. At any rate, so that is kind of an indication of our lack of civil knowledge. Now let me take a side road here. I did a naturalization ceremony here, and many of you were here in September on the Constitution Day. And those of us who have been naturalized, and there are two sitting here on the front row that I'm aware of, have an advantage. We who were born here are at a significant disadvantage. We've had no oath. We've had no ceremony. We've had no instruction on passing a citizenship test per se. We've had no citizenship test to be a citizen. And we didn't make an intentional choice. I don't want to say it's an accident of birth, but that's what some people say. It's a fortunate birth in my view. So we are at a disadvantage. So the newest United States citizen in the room is in the architecture department here, and he is Dr. Prasad Nakavan. Dr. Nakavan, would you please stand? Would you remain standing? Would you remain standing? If the rest of you would stand and join me, and let's do the pledge that he had to do. Let's do the oath. And I'll begin, and then let's all read along. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen, that I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by the law, that I will perform non-combatant service in the armed forces of the United States when required by the law, that I will perform work of national importance under civilian direction when required by the law, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purposes of evasion, so help me God. Thank you. You can be seated. The closest that we come to that is the Pledge of Allegiance, and it's not required, and actually was not even developed until recently in our history. Dr. Nakavon shared with us afterwards, and Assad, I got your wife's permission to say this. I didn't get yours, but you can take it up with her afterwards. He's married to Sid, if you all didn't know that. When he abjured any allegiance to any potentate, he was turning his back, and I'm going to say, on 4,000 years of Persian history and culture. That's not something that one does lightly, and it's not something that he did lightly. And he shared that with us after the ceremony. We, on the other hand, who are born here, are a bit disadvantaged. How have we traditionally overcome that? I think at the dinner table, which today a lot of people sitting at the dinner table have, the iPad or the phone or the earbuds. We've done it in schools. Schools have moved away from it, including Auburn University. You want to talk about that and see me later. And we've done it through wars. Nobody knew where the Philippines were until Teddy Roosevelt was president. My own parents and grandparents had never heard of Pearl Harbor because it was unknown in the United States before the attack on Pearl Harbor that we had a naval base there. And of course we all know now where Iraq is. So wars have been a way that we've learned history. It's kind of been organic. It's been in our fabric to learn, to be civically engaged, to learn about our culture and our government. The modern concept, and it's probably taught in some classes here, is social cohesiveness. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. Now, let me see. I didn't ask Texas Tech for permission to use this, but I did ask the students who videoed it, and they gave me permission. Texas Tech would not have given us permission. Oh, wait. Those are my clerks. Sorry.
Hello everyone, I'm Courtney Plunk with Polytech. We're here on our home campus at Texas Tech to see just how much our fellow students know about their country. Let's find out if we're politically challenged. Okay, what is your name and major?
Leon V. Hill in psychology.
Jonathan Barnes, and I'm a sports management major.
Allison Eden, and I'm a pre-nursing major.
I'm Mitchell Johnson, and my major is human sciences.
Ryan in clinical psychology.
I'm Marissa, and I'm a psychology major.
Who won the Civil War?
Who won the Civil War?
We did?
The South?
Like the one in 1965, or what Civil War?
Who won it?
Who was even in it?
Who was in it? Just tell me who was in it.
Ooh, I don't know. Why you make me do this?
Who won the Civil War?
Oh my God. Hey, I'm drawing a blank at some of those things. I feel like I'm on the Jimmy Kimmel show.
America? I don't know.
That's the Confederates, right? Dang it.
I have no clue.
The Union. The North.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So who is our vice president?
Don't know. I have no idea. Right now? I don't know.
What's his name? Oh my gosh. I have his name in my, I have his face in my head.
Who is the vice president? Is that like a trick question? Nope. Okay. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea.
Don't know.
Joe Biden.
Yes.
I don't know.
You're not the only one. A lot of people don't know.
No, but I still feel.
Okay, who did we gain our independence from?
These are horrible.
I have no idea.
Do you know what year we happened to?
Absolutely not.
I couldn't tell you.
Something like 1677 or something like that.
And what show is Snooki on?
Jersey Shore.
What show is Snooki on?
The Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore.
Oh, Jersey Shore.
And then who is Brad Pitt married to?
Angelina Jolie.
Angelina Jolie.
Angelina Jolie.
Angelina Jolie.
Angelina Jolie.
Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie.
And who was he married to before that?
I think it was Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston.
Awesome. Thank you.
So after that survey that Newsweek did, they had a quote, "We're a nation of incurious know-nothings." And I'm sure there were a lot of people who answered those questions correctly, but the point is everyone should have answered those questions correctly. Now, I want to say something that's very important. And the basis of this is that figures don't lie, but liars figure. And we're going to be looking at some statistics today, and some of it you'll think that that means that that's a cause. It's not. It's just a correlation. It's just a correlation. So let's don't jump to too many conclusions about that. Now, there are lots of issues I could talk about just as an illustration. I'm not going to take a position on anything. I'm going to give you some bare facts about a topic, and then we'll try to triangulate those facts and see why they have meaning to people, particularly to people in here, particularly to you young people. I'm so excited you all are here today. And we have a group from Opelika High School, I believe. Raise your hands back there somewhere. These kids are engaged in philanthropy at Opelika High. Thank you for coming. We could talk about taxes, health care, foreign policy, the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, a lot of different things. The fact of the matter is that we are drowning in information, but starving for knowledge. It's not a lack of information. The year I started the first grade, which was right after the Civil War, according to some of those folks, scientists had identified 2 bacteria in your mouth. The year I started first grade, I didn't have preschool, and that caused tooth decay, 2 bacteria. Last year the count was over 860 in the mouth. Now, so we're not short of information. We're starving, though, for knowledge. It seems that our knowledge is 2 miles wide and 2 inches deep, and there's lack of critical thinking. So let's do just a quick exercise here. U.S. budget. Ask most Americans think the U.S. budget, foreign aid, is 27%. In fact, it's less than 1%. Let me put in a plug for the courts here. We run our entire branch of government, Department of Government, the judicial branch, on less than 1% of our tax receipts. Less than 1/365th of our tax receipts go to the court. All right, 2013, we had $2.7 trillion in revenue in the country. We spent $3.7 trillion. So our deficit for 2013 was $1 trillion. Now, how do you triangulate that and give it some meaning? Let's take 8 zeros off of it. Income, $27,000. Expenditures, $37,000. $10,000 on your credit card. That's just a fact. I'm not going to tell you what it means, because to your young people, you really need to be paying attention to that fact, because I'm not going to live long enough to pay it off. Both my kids went to Auburn. War Eagle? Yeah. And hopefully all 4 of my grandsons will go to Auburn. They won't be paid off by then, except by some trick. Watch out for tricks. This is like a single mom, $27,000 income, spending $37,000 a year and putting $10,000 on her credit card. It's especially important to young people when you're also being asked to pay for my health care, because the health care system as it's designed now will not work unless you're involved in it. So not only are you paying then, but you are paying now. Our national debt is $18 trillion. It increases by $2.35 billion a day. It's actually, this figure is a year old, it's $100 million per hour of national debt. You'll see in a moment that 48% of that is only interest on the national debt. $1.6 million per minute increase in national debt. There's a trend line. For those of you who are just the average Auburn student, say if you were born in 1993, the debt has increased. It was at $4 trillion then. It's increased 4.5 times, 450% during your lifetime. While you're here at Auburn, you can mull that over. It's doubled since 2008 in 6 years. Interest on the national debt. We pay $1.1 billion a day in interest. We pay $47 million an hour in interest on this debt. Now then, so civic engagement affects topics like that because you need to know those facts and you need to be able to triangulate them to have meaning, not just that we've got an $18 trillion national debt. That doesn't mean anything until you triangulate it and give it some area, and then you can process it. Foreign policy. This is interesting. This is where Americans put the Ukraine on the map. 87% of Americans can't find Ukraine on a map. 77% of college grads can't. The median respondent was over 1,800 miles off. But here's the important thing. Here's what gives that meaning. The less people know about Ukraine, the more in favor they are of military intervention. People who think Ukraine is in, Brazil, are more likely to want to intervene in Brazil to defend Ukraine, which is right there. So, the lack of civic knowledge affects our public money and our views on it. It affects our foreign policy views. In fact, I like this Mark Twain quote, God created war so Americans could learn geography. Half of young adult Americans, including college students, 18 to 24, cannot find New York on a map. Civic health affects our economy. Participation in civil society is strongly correlated with trust in other people, and trust is what philanthropy is built on, right, Sid? High levels of trust and social capital in turn may facilitate economic transactions and promote innovation in business. Civic engagement can encourage people to feel attached to their communities and create an infrastructure that encourages people to invest, spend, and hire. Civic engagement develops skills, competence, and habits that make individuals employable and signal desirable qualities to potential employers. The top 10 states in nonprofit density and social cohesion have a 6.5% unemployment rate. The bottom 10 states in nonprofit density and social cohesion have a 10.8% employment rate, 70 or 80% higher. Interesting side note, over a third of Americans talk with friends and family via the internet every day. Internet usage, millennials over 70%, Gen X 63%, boomers like me 53%, and dinosaurs 30%. Yet, despite an all-time high, the percentage of Americans who hear from family or friends frequently dropped 3.3% from 2011 to 2014. Lack of social cohesion. Social cohesion is being attacked. Now then, just notice that Alabama's Civic Health Index that just came out last Monday, a week ago today. Dr. Mark Wilson is involved with that. You see here the, oops, again, the wrong one. Let's see, Auburn University involved, New College at University of Alabama, David Matthews Center for Civic Health, and the NCOC, which is at Tufts, no, it's not Tufts University, but there are a lot of places. You put in civic engagement, and if you Google it, you'll find all kinds of information here. So let's look at Alabama Civic Health, and Dr. Wilson is in here today somewhere. Mark, I saw you, here he is over here. Is Dean Astrup in here? Yeah, there's Dean Astrup. Yeah, Dean, thank you. So here's Alabama. We ranked 28th in voting. You can see volunteering, attending public meetings. I didn't quite get that. At 49th. Charitable giving, we're doing really well, and I'll show you why in just a minute. Exchanging favors with neighbors, we're doing pretty well. Working with neighbors to fix something in the community, that's community involvement, we were last, dead last. But we discussed politics with friends, and with voter registration, we're kind of in the middle of the road. Not surprisingly, the less education, the less voter registration and voting, the more education, the more. Now here's what's interesting about Alabama. Alabama's average religious volunteering is 50%. The nation's is 1/3. That explains why we're so high up, I think, in charitable giving, is because we do it in religious organizations. 1 in 4 Alabamians is a Southern Baptist. 2 in 4 Alabamians are a Baptist of some sort or other. Somebody said that we Baptists, we're many, but we're not much. I am one, so I can say that. I would have thought volunteering in sports or arts would be much higher than that in Alabama. Education actually has a pretty good rate. And we are at or above the national average in almost every category there. I'll come back to that. Now, I told you about correlation does not equal causation. It turns out that Minneapolis is the most civically engaged city in the United States, and that Miami is the least civically engaged city in the United States, and they're comparable in population. If you look at A, there, that column, born in the state of residence, 64% in Minneapolis were born in Indiana, 30% were born outside. In Miami, 30% in Miami were born in Miami. The alternative to that is in D, foreign born. You'll see that nearly 37% in Miami were born outside the United States, and only 8% in Minneapolis. Now, correlation doesn't equal cause. You would think, well, because there are foreign-born people in Miami, Miami is less civically engaged than Minneapolis. But I have an article back there if you're interested in this point. It's a small point, but it's an important point. Minneapolis had 600,000 residents before Miami was even formed. Miami was formed because of a fruit train, because Mr. Flagler built a railroad to Miami to get the oranges out, because the Miami orange groves survived a freeze back at the turn of a previous century. And so there are lots of other reasons to explain this. I just want you to be careful about facts and figures. Now then, let's talk a moment just about causes of a lack of civic engagement. Unrestrained mobility, economic media disconnect and distractions, a lack of civic emphasis at all education levels. This is a real problem. Too much information. It's an information tsunami. We're drowning in information. And deteriorating social cohesion and many others. Let me just give you an illustration of unrestrained mobility. My son graduated from Auburn in civil engineering and went with a big construction firm. He moved 8 times in the first 9 years of work. You think he knows the mayor, who the mayor is of Sandwich, Illinois, where he lived? Or even cares? My daughter lives in Nashville, Auburn graduate. She's a nurse practitioner, works at Vanderbilt. Her next door neighbors are moving to Tampa. One of them grew up in Paris, France, not Texas. The other one grew up in Texas. They're moving to Tampa. The people who bought their house are from California via Orange Beach, Alabama, and now Nashville, Tennessee. Do you think they know who the mayor of Orange Beach is or care? Do you think they know who their representative is in Nashville or who it was in California or even care? This is just a fact. We can't do anything about the mobility. It's just unrestrained. That's part of being free. It's a part of our liberty. We have absolutely the constitutional right to freedom of movement. But it affects our level of civic engagement. And when you're thinking about civic engagement, you need to be thinking about those new people who are moving in and through your town. And the rest of them speak for themselves. So what are our next steps? There are innumerable programs, and people are beginning to wake up to this situation. One very important person, besides me, has awoken to this situation. It's not me at all. It's actually Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, who has started a thing called iCivics. And if you'll look up iCivics, you'll see this, if I can find it.
iCivics is organized into more than 15 easy-to-use curriculum units. Each unit is designed to incorporate lessons, games, web quests, and drafting board topics.
That is the easiest curriculum resource I've ever had to use.
With iCivics' new scope and sequence and over a semester's worth of content, iCivics helps busy teachers plan a day, week, or semester of lessons without having to curate materials on their own.
All of your resources are there, all of the information, all of the background, any assessments that you might need, it's all included in one link, one document, and you can print it all off and really, truly implement it the next day without flaw.
iCivics is a very important component for public schools or for secondary schools to attack this problem of a lack of civic engagement, lack of civic knowledge. Now, I've already mentioned this. What these charts and numbers do is they take a fact that's linear or two-dimensional and add texture to it, add context to it so that you can process the fact. It enables you to capture a thought. And that's part of our problem today is an absence of critical thinking, and especially in our education process. Really, I mean, I never knew who Snooki was. I still don't know who Snooki is. But everybody that they showed, at least, knew not only who Brad Pitt's current wife is, but who his former wife was. My personal view in my world is the law. You'll notice that the law was mentioned 5 times in the oath, the Constitution once, and is according to law 4 times. My view is this. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights are our Magna Carta. The Declaration of Independence, which you should really read if you've never read it or haven't read it recently, is the most famous breakup letter in history. It's not a dear John, it's a dear George. It's directly written to King George of England. My emphasis is on the rule of law for this reason. We have a melting pot here, and we all know that we're all part of this melting pot, including my own heritage. But how can we have all of those cultural and social influences all at the same time, and what makes it work? What holds it together? Nobody ever asked what the pot is. What is the pot? The pot is the rule of law. The pot is what allows each of us to exercise our own part of the concoction but staying within bounds. Can you imagine having a baseball game where some Australians came and some people from Iran came, some people from Brazil came, and they each had their own set of different rules and they were playing each other? There's no way you could have a baseball game. We're people of the rule. We're people of the rule of law. And so my focus is on that. And in our court, we had a session with high school teachers and civic students after the naturalization ceremony, which Sid and Basad and Sid's mom and a bunch of you may have participated in. And we talk about these issues, not about so much about what the facts are, but why aren't we engaged? I had 2 jurors come up to me one day. We were striking a jury, and I asked them, "Have you previous jury service?" "Yes." "Did you serve to a verdict?" "Yes." "What do you do?" "I'm a school teacher." Was your case a civil case, which is about money, or was your case a criminal case, which is about somebody going to jail? Simple question. Both of these school teachers had served on juries. One of them had been the foreperson. Neither one of them could tell me whether the case they had served on was a civil case or a criminal case. That is something so basic. All 4 of my grandparents, none of whom graduated from high school, would have known all about that, and they would have served on juries, the men would have. And it forced me to realize that we have a problem and that I wanted to attack it. So, the rule of law is the pot, and that's why it's mentioned in the oath that naturalized citizens take. Listen, I'll end on this. I loved my days at Auburn, and I thank Sid and the dean for allowing me to come back to Auburn one more day, just one more day. And I'd like to make another day someday. But here's the deal. When I was here at Auburn in political science, history, and speech, I thought I could change the whole world. And that's okay. That's a good thought because it motivates us. But one thing I learned while I was here and after I left here is not everybody gets to change the world, the whole world. In fact, only very few people get to change the whole world, and they usually have names like Churchill, Kennedy, Reagan, Roosevelt, Wilson, Lincoln, names like that. The rest of us have to change our own worlds. We've all been entrusted to a world. Sometimes it's small, sometimes it's very small and very concentrated, but sometimes things are added to it. And now as a judge, I get to go out and speak like this. I want to challenge you to make a change in your world. It starts out here for you students in Auburn, I hope. Those of you in high school, I hope you'll consider Auburn for the philanthropy program, many of you. But the whole point of this talk is make a difference in your world. You can make a difference in your world. And then that collectively, as in philanthropy, it's collective action. Collectively, we can be better civically engaged, more knowledgeable civically, and we'll govern ourselves better. Thank you so much.